In this job, you get to spend some time with some amazing people. And when you look back, you think, how lucky were you at such, say, a young age to meet so many people? I've often said this on the show before. Sometimes the stupidity of youth, you think, why didn't I ask about that? Or why didn't we discuss this? But of course, sometimes you're slightly enamored, aren't you? And you're thinking, wow, as you get a bit older, you realize it's all about luck, power, prestige, and more importantly, a simple yes, look at the draw. They got to be famous, or they got to be wealthy, or run a mega company, something like that. One man in particular that I was so lucky to spend a little bit of time with was none other than the super producer, Aaron Spelling. Now, I've been a big fan of Aaron Spelling, as I know many people are who watch this show, and thank you for that, because we all share this, don't we? I think we all loved the glamour of those particular wonderful series. I loved The Love Boat. I thought things were going to be like that if I ever went and worked on a ship. I didn't realise there was some hard work involved, the sort of thing. Charlie's Angels, just brilliant, wasn't it? Fantasy Island. And what was good about Aaron Spelling, and I think he started this way off when he started out working on the 4-star productions, was the simple thing that he gave work to a lot of great actors who had seemingly been forgotten in the golden age of Hollywood. They popped up in all sorts of things, didn't they, And I think that's the reason. Even like Burke's Law, I saw one the other day and it had the beautiful Arlene Dahl featured in it. And you kind of think, now there's a star, there's a real movie star, in a television series. Of course, Aaron Spelling had done a lot to create those magical, mystical, glamorous sort of things that we tune into every single week around the world. Millions of us, making him one of the very wealthiest producers in the world, and more importantly, one of the most powerful. So much so, in September of 1983, this particular episode aired, and it was absolutely brilliant when you think, because what he managed to do was get a former president of the United States, along with his wife, Gerald and Betty Ford, to appear in the program. Not only that, Henry Kissinger also popped up. Now, as a young kid, really, young man at that point, I didn't really know who these people were. And I thought, well, what's the big deal? It's only when you go meet them years later, you think that was a very powerful sort of maneuver. And that all happened because they were filming at a Denver ball. And one of the main producers, Esther Shapiro, sort of went in and said, would you mind? And suddenly now they're soap stars. Fascinating, isn't it, to think? But Aaron Spelling told me this particular royal juicy nugget, and it was something that actually a lot of people have overlooked. As you know, Dynasty was the #1 show, and it starred our brilliant Dame Joan Collins alongside, of course, the beautiful Linda Evans and John Forsyth, and things behind the scenes weren't as easygoing as one might have first thought. But what was interesting to learn from Aaron Spelling himself was that when Diana was over in LA, she literally told him how much she loved the show, and he said she knew every single thing about the episode. She loved the clothes, the characters, every single thing. Now, a few years down the line, after the episode with the President of the United States included in it, they had another idea. What better, they thought, particularly as Joan Collins had recently been over here and popped up on the Royal Variety Performance, to try and get the Royal to maybe even just have a walk-on or a wave going into the party. And apparently this truly did excite the late and beautiful Princess Diana. And what's interesting about this, everybody talks about Diana wanting to be in The Bodyguard with Kevin Costner. But Aaron Spelling said no, that this would be the show that she truly would have wanted to appear in. Glitz, glamour and all that sort of stuff. But she had one stipulation. Apparently if she was going to meet somebody, it couldn't be Alexis. It had to be a nicer, more rounded character, even though of course Dame Joan is British. She said that everybody would then pick that apart. And apparently this was battered around for a few years. Every new season, Aaron Spelling would put a request into Kensington Palace, and very politely, another rejection. But as he pointed out, eventually he felt that Diana would say yes. And it's interesting to note, isn't it, that obviously the show ended in the late 80s, early 90s, and sadly nothing came to pass. But every year she managed to send Aaron Spelling a Christmas card, something he believed that she hadn't let go of that soap star dream. I know I often say this, but when I look back at tapes and listen to things, you think, how did I not notice this before? This is a gem. But as he also pointed out, Diana was also very shrewd, and he said he realised that she didn't need to be associated with a show like that, but this was her downtime, or off time. And as she pointed out to him, it's good watching people being bad, isn't it? And he said, that's the magic of the show. And she said, well, you do it so well, Mr. Spelling. And that apparently was their very final words that they were to say to each other. Words apparently that he totally cherished. But could you have seen, of course, the late and beautiful Princess Diana in Dynasty? I think I could, definitely. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.